everybody. Welcome to Radio Dead Air Tech Q&A. You've got questions. We've got guesses. I'm Nash. Been doing Radio Dead Air for ages and ages. But in addition to that, I'm also an IT professional. With me, as always, my producer, Mike Gearman, also skilled in IT. We'll be taking your tech questions tonight. If you have something you need help with, you're curious about, just whatever, tech-wise, send that to request at radiodeadair.com, like it says on the screen. We also have news.
Yeah.
I don't know how we're supposed to. I don't know how we're supposed to do shit. Like, I'm right now with, in case you aren't familiar, don't know what's going on this week, massive tariffs and retaliatory tariffs, and pretty much international trade is completely stymied. We're on the verge of a recession, potentially a depression, because
dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
I don't know how other tech YouTubers are going to handle this, because most of them are focused on new devices and product reviews and new stuff that comes out. And those things are very expensive, and they're going to be even more expensive. Whereas we're focused on fixing what you got and keeping stuff going and getting the most you can for as little money as possible.
And occasionally random miscellaneous news about stupid people doing stuff with tech. Sometimes stupid CEOs doing stuff with tech.
But I have a different look at things, which I think might help us. But I feel for like the big tech channels, because they're going to be just like, nobody's going to be able to buy shit for a while. Speaking of, let's start with our top story from what all of this is coming with. Yeah. So last week, or this week, however you want to put it, Nintendo finally announced the release date for the Switch 2, which is going to be June 5th.
Here's this amazing piece of kit that you can buy.
Yeah, the American price, and the price on it was already pretty bad. Now, keep in mind, there were already some tariffs in effect, and prices had gone up. So the Switch 2 was already going to be $450 US. And immediately when that price, and the price per game was going to move up to $80 per game. Yeah. And when those prices dropped, people looked at that and went, no. The general response to everyone to that price range was, no, no, like, fuck you, no.
Ain't happening.
But then, on April 2nd, Trump, I'm going to let other people get it. I can't really analyze it because it's all gibberish. They announced a bunch of tariffs on they put 10% tariffs on an island that doesn't have anything but penguins on it.
That's not true, Nash. That's not true. It also has moss and scrubby brushes.
They put 10% tariffs on an island where the only residents are a U.S. military base.
Yep. They also put tariffs on Norfolk Island, which is a territory of Australia, which has neither imports nor exports to the U.S. Fun fact about Norfolk Island. When Australia was a prison colony, Norfolk Island was the prison colony for Australia. If you committed a crime in Australia, you were sent to Norfolk Island. And it was so bad there that people would commit capital offenses to get sent back to mainland Australia to be hung.
They put tariffs on France and French Guinea. The one on France is like something like 30%, but the one on French Guinea is like 10%, except it's still a territory of France.
Reunion Island, also a territory of France, and technically part of the EU, even though it's nowhere near Europe, has its own separate tariff rate.
Yeah, and it's lower. So they're just going to be like, fine, we'll just ship stuff through there and pay less, you dipshits. So the whole thing is chaos and stupid. People are suspecting
this is what happens when you let an LLM pick territories that you're going to apply tariffs to.
The main guess is they ran this through ChatGPT to decide what the rates were going to be. And it's it's fun.
About as effective as everything else run through ChatGPT.
So as a result of that,
you got 6 countries.
As a result of that, the tariffs now, Nintendo said, we're not taking pre-orders because we might have to change the prices. Shit. So not only was the 450 was the low end, this could get worse.
Yep.
Yeah. Pre-orders. Canada. Jiggly Saint's pointing out pre-orders are still a go for Canada. They ain't changed shit about Canada. So, and also they noted that because of this, America may get less overall shipments of Switches than other nations. So Americans we might get overlooked for the Switch. We might be in a situation the rest of the world has usually been in, that they get lower numbers of consoles overall and less ability to play. We might be like the UK classically has gotten a lower number of consoles, like ever since back in like the 90s. Trying to get your hands on one has been a lot harder. Now that might be us in America. So this is a mess, and this is just the start of things. We don't have prices yet for the RTX 50 series, 5060, 5060 Ti. Those are probably going to be terrible. Even if they do give us an MSRP version, the prices are still going to be terrible and get terrible. Prices on graphics cards existing are going to go up, and they were already hard to get a hold of.
Indeed. I mean, I'm glad I built this computer around Christmas. I really am.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad I got a hold of that 4080, even used as it was, because my system is 7900X, RTX 4080, 64 gigs of RAM. I'm set for a while. And considering the Ryzen 9000 series wasn't that much faster than the 7000 series, my motherboard and CPU are great for a while to go too. So, I'm in good shape, but I overbuilt. This is why I overbuild my systems. So, yeah. I can't wait until we start seeing the smuggling is the thing. People smuggling Nintendos. You just...
I honestly hadn't considered that. I mean,
people are going to be...
It feels like it's not very Al Capone-ish, but
we're going to get Nintendo smuggling from Canada. People are going to try to smuggle Nintendos across the border.
So hypothetically speaking, just hypothetically, mind you, someone crosses from the U.S. into Canada. It's still perfectly legal, U.S. citizen. Generally speaking, they don't search people.
Right.
They come back with the Switch. Oh, no, this is my Switch.
Yeah.
I took this into Canada.
Buy a Switch, come back. Sell it for twice as much. Go back to Canada, buy a Switch, come back to America. Just, Twitch, we're gonna have Switch smuggling. We got Nintendo smuggling. Hooray!
Yeah, I mean, so Roger says that you probably take it out of the box. True, but I mean, one, shrink wrap machines exist. Two, saying open box in a listing on eBay is not a killer.
And considering how hard it is to get a hold of them, that open, where people are going to have to get a little more comfortable with not getting the full packaging, because it's going to be a mess. So that's what's going on there. I don't know. Again, we don't know if this is what's going to stick going forward. We don't know if he's going to backpedal on this. Considering the market is plunging, it's already lost 2,000 points as of this last week, over like 2,500 maybe this last week. might lose more. We don't know what Monday's going to look terrible. I'm pretty sure. So we don't know what's going to happen because this guy has the planning, and it's like dealing with a toddler, the object permanence, the whole 9 yards. So
I'd say dealing with a toddler is better because you can go and distract a toddler with something shiny, and the toddler will forget forever what they were upset about.
Well, speaking of toddlers, Europe is finally doing something about that whole data protection, Digital Services Act, the data protection law, and Elon and Twitter flaunting it.
Yes,
it looks
quite flagrantly flaunting it.
Yeah, there's going to be the European Union is set to slap penalties against Twitter for breaking the
illicit content and disinformation portions of the Digital Services Act.
Yeah. Now they'd already and the board that was investigating this had already established the law had been broken. All that was left now is to determine penalties. Now, before the election, even with Elon being Elon, there was a good chance that the penalties would have been not quite so severe because he would have worked with them on something. But now, because he's tied to this administration so closely, literally working for the administration, and the tariffs have just blown up everything, and there have been antagonism toward Europe as a whole and the whole Greenland thing, there is every chance they're just going to throw the book at him because why the fuck not? Why
Indeed.
try to work with someone this obstinate and this determined to cause a mess, especially in light of how Elon seems determined to use Twitter to influence politics personally, not just letting people on the service do it himself. He's using Twitter as a means to influence other nations' politics. Like, we've already seen a country like Brazil has proven they don't have to take shit from him because they can just go, fuck off. And it works. If you give him a big enough bloody nose, he will back down.
And I'll be honest with you, $1 billion is real money, even for Elon. I mean, if I had $1 billion at any given point, it'd be, I don't know that, I'll be honest with you, Nash, I don't know that I would do this.
Well, that $1 billion would probably offset any revenue that Twitter has brought in for an entire year.
Yeah. And by the way, we're pulling the $1 billion here. The fine could surpass $1 billion. I mean, they may come back and say 900 million. They may come back and say 2 billion.
But part of this is the EU officials are speaking under off the record to reporters. They're saying they want to make an example of Twitter as a result of this. And this is even in addition to, we didn't talk about it, but he did some shuffling around in order to move his personal debt of $12 billion in loans he took out to purchase Twitter. He moved X, the company. XAI has purchased X. He owns them both. It's a stock swap situation. In doing so, he offloaded his personal debt onto this new company that has investors who are now responsible for it. Likely because he's concerned about personal debt. I wonder why. But that's a little bit of a shell. He did that before with Solar City way back in the early 2000s.
And it is legal. It's just it's legal because it's not been made illegal.
Yeah.
In the same way that venture capitalists buy a company and then load it down with the loans that they used to buy the company.
Yeah. And then when the loans come due and they can't pay it, they bankrupt that company, but not themselves.
Yes.
So they're not responsible for it.
It's something that sounds like it shouldn't be legal. And if we had a Congress that was not completely in the pocket of business, it might be illegal. But
Yeah.
It's not illegal at this point in time.
Yeah. So that tells you kind of the fact that he's doing that tells you kind of how it's going for Twitter in general, money wise, which the answer is not good. And that's, yeah, the reason he wanted to get that personal debt off of him is because it's backed, a lot of his personal debt is backed based on the share price of Tesla, which is also going way down and not being helped by the tariffs. So everything's
it turns
crazy.
out even Tesla imports some of its stuff.
Oh, there are things we cannot get here, like lithium, large quantities of lithium.
There's another good example. There was, I don't remember which tech bro it was, but there was a tech bro going, oh no, the tariffs aren't going to affect me, my company that is doing this really neat high-tech thing, because all our graphite that we need, which is our major thing, is sourced in the U.S. And people replied to him with, like, the U.S. hasn't produced graphite in decades.
Yeah. You
are importing all your graphite.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of the stuff that's mined, a lot of this is so dumb. It's so dumb. It's all self-inflicted. That's the worst part. It's so dumb. Frustrating. Speaking of dumb, this is another thing. This might you may notice, we're shifting gears here, folks, but you may notice if you've moved to Android 15 on your phone, and let's say you go for a jog. Well, Android 15 has a theft detection lock on it. It senses, based on how jostled around the phone is being and what's happening, it feels like you may have, it may be being stolen, and it locks the phone.
Yeah.
So if you go for a really good jog, you might end up locking your phone because it's misfiring.
Well, not just a jog, mind you. One person in the story says, I ran out of the building basically to catch the bus, and my phone locked.
Yeah. I mean, the idea is sound, I guess. It's based on the phone's accelerometer. It tries to sense movements to determine if you're being mugged or something. But the sensitivity might be jacked up a little too high.
So I'll be honest, you know what this reminded me of?
What?
There was one of the various procedural cop shows. I don't remember if it was a Law and Order or if it was a CSI, where they were very computer based. And they had a murder, of course, because every episode has a murder. And they had the victim's phone, and they were, quote, able to use the accelerometer data to reproduce the user's movements in their room before they were killed. And I'm like, I don't think it works like that, but it would have triggered the anti-theft for sure.
Yeah, it would have triggered the anti-theft. Yeah, this is it's, be aware of it if you have an Android 15 device and the sort of it might goof up and decide that your phone is being stolen, even if your phone is not being stolen. Whoopsie doodle. I mean, there are worse things to happen. At least they're trying to do something useful for people.
Of all the features that they've had, because my phone has been notifying me quite a bit lately. Hey, your phone's got new features. Hey, your phone's got new features. Hey, your phone's got new features. Because it's telling me that for once for each Gmail account that is on my phone. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. Because I had several throwaway Gmail accounts for joke things. And literally joke things. I'm not doing anything illicit. There's literally joke accounts. And I finally decided to not flip past them, and it was all AI garbage. And I'm like, those aren't useful features to me. This could be at least slightly useful for some people, just to tweak it a little.
Yeah, well, it's a matter of we've hit a plateau for smartphone stuff in as much as adding new useful things. they keep trying, and it keeps not being.
Well, yeah. I mean, so realistically, once you added a decent camera, because some of the early cameras on phones were garbage, but they were better than what you had. Yeah. You know, better than carrying around a camera.
Most people didn't even do that. So,
yeah. So we're at the point where anything that you might want to add to a phone isn't going to be a hardware feature anymore. It's going to be an app.
Yeah.
And AI garbage aside, generally speaking, you don't need that powerful a phone for most apps.
Yeah. It's like I said, we've hit a plateau, and it's going to be an even harder sell with the tariffs, trying to get people into new devices when, well, they're so much more expensive, but they don't really add anything to what we've done before. And that's going to get real irritating once, support for older devices starts dropping and they stop getting updates. And the next 4 years are going to be so much fun if he lives that long. Anyway, on that cheerful note, let's get to your questions. Again, you can go and send this. A lot of these are from last week because we got a little overloaded. So we're trying to play some catch up here. Yeah. First one is from EGC. Says, hello, Nash and Mike and 1Cat, 2Cat, 3Cat, etc. On a whim, I have acquired a refurbished ThinkPad T14 laptop for relatively cheap, $350 including tax. Yeah. And the process of setting it up. Just like your thoughts on taking care of refurbished technology and what to do getting used devices like this to minimize future issues or detect immediate problems due to their previous, however long time in use. Well, it depends on how refurbished is refurbished. The first thing you want to do if you're buying like a used laptop or something is use some sort of application, whether it's built into Windows or whatnot, to see how old that battery is, how many charge cycles it's been through. Because batteries, we talk about this, they wear down. Eventually, they can't hold a charge anymore. You only charge them so many times. Yeah. If they have,
but depending on the model of computer, it's a laptop, but you might not be carrying it around anywhere. You might be using it in a static location, and you go, I don't need the battery. I'll just run wall power.
If it's an internal battery, if it's a full refurbish, if they actually refurbished it and put a new battery in, it'll show the number of charge cycles it's gone through. Yeah. So that's the first thing you want.
And it should be relatively low then.
Like if someone to refurbish a laptop, what I expect to happen is not just outside cleaning off the screen, looking for scuffs, and all that stuff. In my opinion, refurbishing a laptop is taking that laptop apart, taking out the heatsink fan, cleaning those out, repasting the processor and the GPU if there's a separate GPU.
Maybe even replacing the hard drive. Certainly wiping the hard drive and reinstalling the OS.
Refurbishing, considering how cheap NVMe drives are these days, there should be a new drive put it into a hard drive if you purchase one, because leaving the old one in there or just wiping and refurbish it is just, you repasted it, Raritor. Okay, yeah, well, for one thing, they should have done it for you for, if it's truly refurbished. Immediate problems, there's always burn-in tests you can run for those sort of things. What's the one I use? I use Ada64 has got a burn-in test. And there's a trial version you can use for that. What is that other benchmark burn-in? It's not OSST, is it? Why am I always get when they okay, OCCT, not OSST. OCCT is a free piece of software that you can run to run benchmarks for your software to see how well it's performing. It also has what's called a burn-in test where It will put your system through the paces as hard as it can without, damaging it, to check for system stability and all those other things. Let's see, put it on screen here. It's free software, and it's got benchmarks, got leaderboards if you want to show off how well your system's running, if you actually want to do that. Pretty much putting it through one of those once you've got it. It was not like the most well refurbished. Okay. Well, if you want to, if you want to make sure that all the hardware is functioning and there's no, like, you get a bad memory stick or there's actually a problem with something, running a stability test is a good way to check, put it through its paces, check it out. The reason why is it will do stuff beyond what you might normally do in just gaming applications and all that. It will push every part of it to determine that everything's working properly. Some things, like if you're just playing games, you may never push the laptop that hard. If you're just browsing the web, if you're even just editing video, you may never push the drive that hard. Yeah, Swooshy, yeah, check the health of the SSD if it's the same SSD that came with it. See how many writes and reads have been done to it as well. Because SSDs, those wear out too. SSDs and batteries, those both wear out. So that's pretty much what I'd recommend if you get something like that. Like most people, repasting a laptop is not something I expect most people to be comfortable with doing, because that's a tricky business. They're all laptops from even within the same manufacturer. All laptops disassemble completely differently. It's always a way you have to figure out how to take any given laptop apart, because they always redesign them for a new generation, and there's no consistent method of doing it. With a desktop, there is a consistent method of disassembling parts, typically. If it's built to ATX standards, there is a standard way of disassembling the system. If it's a laptop, some of them use screws and snaps. Some of them use glue. It's anybody's guess what you've got. So pretty solid piece of tech. Only about 4 or 5 years now. The ThinkPads tend to be fairly reliable ones. People have even though it's Lenovo. Yeah. We hated Lenovo for years, and now they've come back around to being this is solid shit.
Well, I'll go back to hating them once they start installing spyware again.
Yeah. All right. Next up is Colin. Hi, Nash and Mike. Do you have any recommendations for a 4K Blu-ray player? Got a set of Lord of the Rings extended editions, but no player. I'm looking for one that has full video and audio, but not obscenely expensive. That is a good question. So far as, again, my fallback is to go toward game consoles.
Yeah. Because then you've got a multi-purpose device.
Yeah, the Xbox One, the Xbox One X and the One S, both fairly. The One S can't do. I believe it can do 4K video, but it can't do 4K gaming, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah,
PS5,
the PS5 Slim can do 4K video.
Yeah. But yeah, I've had good experience. The Xbox One was designed with the idea of being a media box, so it's fairly good. But yeah, the Xbox, I've had good experience with those, the 4K versions of the Xbox, and you can get those used fairly decent prices these days, because they're a few years down the road. They're also still supported by Microsoft. They're still getting updates security wise. So those are good bet.
Now, if you already have a game console, but it doesn't do Blu-ray, and you say, I don't need a game console, I would say the Sony UBP X700M.
Why is that?
It's sub 200. It does 4K HDR. It's a pretty solid little device, and I've never had problems with Sony personal electronics. I've had problems with some other Sony stuff, but
I didn't manage to do a lot of research on this, but and I don't know how many of these are actually available, but if you can try to find an unlocked Blu-ray player, those are nice because a region free Blu-ray player. Let me see here. Sony region free Blu-ray 4. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. The UBP X700, there is a region free model.
Yep.
And how much that's about is about 278 right now. So yeah, there are region free models. That would definitely be something if I would look into, because simply put, the idea of region locking a DVD is a movie, a Blu-ray is really so last century. And the fact they still do it is kind of ridiculous. If you can get one that can just play discs from any region, I still, the whole region locking thing is so archaic at this point. Make sure if you're going to buy,
it's because they didn't want to release stuff in certain countries or certain areas. They said, "Oh, if we region lock this, we don't have to worry about this happening. We're not going to release this in Australia because we don't like those people." So
it also makes getting a region unlocked. There are some things that were like for example, some of the Pokemon movies, apparently, according to Suede, friends from back in the day, some of the Pokemon movies aren't available easily in certain regions. So if you get a hold of one and it's not from your region, I'm sure there are other movies like that as well that are hard to get a hold of. So whatever you get, make sure you get something that's region free if you can. That if you're going for a dedicated Blu-ray player, you might as well. Okay, next up, this is from Josh. Hello, hi Nash, Mike, and Floofs. Wrote in before about upgrading my computer. I got all the things to upgrade, but now I'm getting around to rebuilding. My question, I believe you answered before, but I wanted to know how to move things to my new computer from the old one. I'm borrowing a 2 terabyte external SSD from a friend, wondering how best to move my programs and their settings over to Windows 11 on the new computer. Okay, Josh. Good news, bad. Well, actually, bad news. It's all bad news, yeah.
Yeah. So the bad news is you're probably going to do full reinstalls on the programs, because if you're on Windows 11 now, you're probably on Windows 10 previously, and there might be a completely different install process. There could be features. I say features. There could be parts of the program that don't work properly. Like you were just trying to use a image restoration utility to move software, which can work, but it's iffy when switching OSs.
To my knowledge, there is only one piece of software that is designed to move applications from one Windows system to another, and it's called PC Mover, and it costs money. There are different versions of it, but it starts at like about $40 US or £27.95 or 31 euros. It's the only one I know of that can do it, and it costs money, and the licenses are onerous. For example, the PC Mover Home version, you only get to move shit once, and then the license deactivates. And only for one user. So if you have multiple users of the computer, screw them. Their shit's screwed. So that's annoying.
And again, it won't necessarily fix the problem of, the install for Windows 11 is different because there's different, the OS is different.
Yeah.
There's things that might not exist, function calls that might not exist in Windows 11 that were there in Windows 10. That your software's going like, I'm trying to draw the thing and I can't draw the thing because the thing is gone.
Yeah, I just did a full system wipe. I did a C drive, wiped clean, and then I reinstalled Windows and reinstalled my programs myself. Now, the one trick you want to remember to save data that might not be available in other spots is you're going to want to go to your user folder, find your name or whichever user account you use in there. And I don't
let's say user accounts, plural.
Yeah. You want to go to C, users, and pretty much, find your account, find whichever folder is yours, and copy every damn thing in there. That's what you're going to want to do, because That is where stuff that gets saved that you might not have access to otherwise. You're also going to want to turn on under view. You're going to want to go down to show and then look for hidden items because there's a folder in there that is hidden. It's called app data. That folder is crucial.
What I'm going to say about app data is you may not want to copy it over to the new computer, but you're going to want to have it on the external.
You want to copy it. You don't copy it in place. Don't put that, just plop it right back down. That's going to cause problems. But you want to copy it. You want to have access to the files in those folders because there are files in there that correspond to every piece of program you have installed right now. Also, I found out a really annoying thing in doing the reinstall. Did you know Windows doesn't put every font in the font folder?
I did not know that. Because that's where I've always put them.
There are some fonts I had installed because you open up a font file and you click install. It put them in app data. I had to find them and reinstall them in there. That was irritating as hell. That was just, I was like, because I use those all the time, like especially for the like, let me show you here, the set you see right there on screen, the panel there, the sensor panel I have on screen. I use special fonts on that, and they were all missing, so my sensor panel was all screwed up. So I'm like, where the fuck did my fonts go? I copied my fonts folder. No, it was in app data. So they put crap, in they put them in app. You have to look for the font files, but you'll find them there. I found them. I found them and I was able to reinstall them. They were there. So
I see why that happens.
Why?
That is what happens if you install a font and the font, at least in theory, asks, do you want to install this for this user or for the system? Which most fonts won't.
Well, anyway, you'll find a lot of stuff gets put in app data, especially for programs. It is better generally to reinstall programs fresh. Mainly because of our old friend, the registry, being, fiddly and temperamental and such. It's better to, if you're going to be moving stuff over, install your applications fresh. That's your best bet there. Games, not so much, because stuff like Steam and other marketplaces for PCs have made a good, they've set up in a good way. If you just copy the game, putting the games in a folder and telling it where the folder is, Steam will go, oh yeah, I'll set that back up for you. Because they've kind of assumed that people have external storage for that sort of stuff.
And that's when the case, and that's in the case where the game itself doesn't go up and say, I'm just copying your data up to my cloud.
Yeah. So that, but Josh, unfortunately, the best thing I can tell you right there is you're going to have to start. I mean, you could use PC Mover is the only software I know of that I would recommend to do that because they have support and, but otherwise I'd still say that's kind of iffy. Best to do it, just restart yourself. Okay. Do we have any more come in? Good Lord. We have, we have more come in. We're busy tonight, aren't we?
Well,
we have more questions coming. Yeah, we have more questions. I know. All right, let's go through this next one from Aaron. All right. Hey, Nash and Mike, I'm extremely worried about tariffs and inflation. Us too. And keeping my computer running going forward. I'm limited on funds at the moment, but I'm getting about $400 for my tax returns. What do you recommend I upgrade right now? He's got CPU, Ryzen 5600X, RTX 3060 12 gig, a 1 terabyte Western Digital Black, ASRock B450 Steel Legend, Corsair CX650M, Thermalright Assassin X120 for your cooler. Case is a Fractal Meshify with 4 Arctic P12 Max fans. All right, everything there looks fine. And even an AM4 system, it's pushing it right now, but That's not bad. A 5600X. You're probably going to be able to find other AM4 processors used, like a 5800X or something, or 5900 or something, if you want to upgrade later. So there's you could find those used. There's no big hurry on that. The one that's sticking out to me is the GPU. That 3060 is starting to feel its age, even being a 12 gig model. Considering it's a 3060, you already don't have real good ray tracing or DLSS performance on a 3060. You have those options, but they're not going to function very well on a 3060. So DLSS is already not really a big issue for you. That said, let me see what we're looking at on AMD right now. Let's see, 7700 X2. What are the prices on those right now? Those are gone. That explains that. I'm like, what? The prices are crazy on a 7700 XT. That's because they're out of stock. Those go bye-bye. That's why trying to find any GPU right now is crazy. Let me look what's on Newegg. Pretty much, you may have to look at something used, unfortunately. A 6800 for about 350 to 400 used. Yeah, 6800 is not bad. I would try to get something with slightly newer generation. Yeah. Getting new stuff is going to be difficult right now. Yeah,
if your budget extends beyond the 400 you're getting back, like you got an extra 100 kicking around, you might be able to get up to a 7700 XT if you can get lucky.
Yeah, because prices are crazy and they're just going to get worse. It's a bad time. Yeah.
Or if you're willing to go open box. I mean, I see one that's just sub 500 on Newegg from ASRock that is 500. So,
let me see. Newegg, Radeon 7000 series. Yeah, let's see what the prices are on there. Mainly, I'm feeling Radeon gives you more RAM, which going forward is going to be kind of longevity-wise. The more RAM you have on your system, the better. On your GPU, the better. 7600 XT open box for 400. Not great, but that's a 16 gig card. There's also a Speedster brand new for 420, 7600 XT. Not the best GPU, but it is a little bit faster than 3060. There's also, let's see, eBay, freaking eBay for this stuff. Crap. 7700 XT. What we got? eBay. I'm just looking at what generally the prices are right now. Why are you selling just the box? You stupid. Nobody's just going to buy the damn box.
Hold on. What did you put into eBay to get that? I want to see that result.
7700 XT graphics card. There's a guy selling ASRock AMD RX 7600 XT. No GPU, box only for display. Who sells just the box? I'm seeing there's a 7700 XT on there for $420. Pickup only, asshole. That's even. Let me see what. Fuck off. Fuck off. I'm gonna have to say.
Is this the guy selling the box only for $15?
No, for $12. There's probably more people selling box.
Okay, yeah, because I found a different one.
Different one. Let me see about a 6800. How those are going right now. RX 6800. All right. That's for about 340. No, that's broken. All right. Those are about 400 for a 6800, and that's a 16 gig card. That's a pretty good deal. It's got a slightly older generation of ray tracing and other stuff, but still 16 gigs raw power. I mean, you're not getting a whole lot on the 3060 anyway. So yeah, a used RX 6800 might be the best bet. Bang for your buck for that $400. And there are a couple you can find on there right now you can buy for that price. It's rough right now, folks. I'm just telling you, it's a rough time to be looking at any of this crap. So that's the best advice I can give you. New, a 7600, 12 gig. It's not much better than a 3060, but it's okay. Used, yeah, the RX 6800 looks like your best bet for a 16 gig. Yeah. Crap. I'm sorry. I wish things were better, but it's not going to get any better soon. Ugh, hate this crap. All right, let's see. Let's continue looking at our questions for this week. We got more. Okay. Next up is from Swooshy. All right. You may recall me mentioning in Twitch chat, I bricked my RX 7900 XTX last week with a botched VBIOS upgrade. Original plans to reflash the BIOS chip directly was a bust. My husband recently upgraded his VR rig to AM5. We now have enough spare parts to make a complete system with a full-size motherboard, meaning I was able to slot it in as a secondary. By the alignment of some stars, Windows was still able to recognize it, so I could reflash the stock via BIOS. Okay. Now that I've taken the cooler off this thing, it's now in need of some new thermal interface material. Attached a photo, I don't have to, but took during the original attempt to reflash the BIOS chip. So you see how solidified stock thermal putty on the VRAM chips is torn. Yeah. Moreover, are watching Gaming Nexus tear down this card. Judging by how Steve was talking about it, could use some better stuff anyway. Any tips for about how to replace the stock thermal interface material? I've ordered some regular thermal pads of various thickness a friend recommended. A phase change PTM 7950 thermal pad, yes, and some thermal putty. I've never done this before. Any tips, guidance you might have would be very useful. Well, for the thermal pads, if you've got thermal putty coming, you don't really need the thermal pads. So thermal pads are common, and there's nothing wrong with them. The thing is, they are what they are. They're the exact measurement they are. And if you don't get the right thickness, they're not going to work properly. Thermal putty is nice because it can take the place of thermal pads. You can only use it one time. But if it's a graphics card like this, you're probably not going to have to replace it ever. You don't have to worry about getting the exact right thickness because it's a putty. It will conform to the thickness it needs to be.
As long as you put it on thick enough to begin with.
Yeah. Just like roll a ball in your fingers and squish it. Make sure it's got some squishiness to it, and then put it on the components that had thermal pads before. Because otherwise you're breaking out calipers. You're trying to determine what the thickness was before. You're trying to go online, look up the thickness. I've done this myself because I've put water blocks on my... I've put water blocks on my cards before thermal putty was a more common thing. It's become more and more common. And it's a pain in the butt. Thermal putty is a much better way to go. So I wouldn't worry about the thermal pads so much. Just the PTM phase change, that's good stuff. You're going to want to be very careful with that. Store it in the fridge until you're ready to use it, because it is very sensitive to temperature. And once it's melty, it becomes a pain in the butt. But yeah, that's one of those things you put on the graphics card, you're probably not ever going to have to change it. It's not going to pump out. It's not going to be a mess. It's just, I would get yourself like a craft knife, because it's going to have plastic on both sides. And get yourself a little craft knife. I'm going to make this bigger so people can see. Little craft knife like this with like the point end on it. This little scalpel type thing makes it easy to get under the plastic, lift it up enough so that you can peel it a tiny bit, and peel it a little bit on both sides before you put it in place. Then unpeel the one side, put it on the hold on, get my 2-shot going again. Yeah, put it on the actual GPU die itself, and make sure the other side's peeled up just a little. Yeah, X-Acto blade, right. Put it up just a little bit, and then very carefully, it's a little bit tricky. You have to kind of hold it down on one side while you're peeling up at the same time. So you're like holding the plastic down in one place, but peeling it up in another. You just want to kind of go slowly to make sure the pad stays down on the die while you're peeling. Watch some videos on how to apply PTM 79. It's good stuff. I've used it. I would happily recommend it. It's got good thermal characteristics, and once you put it on, it might as well be on there forever. But it's tricky to apply, so you might want to watch some videos on it. But yeah, you're pretty good there. Okay, next is Camille, and I know exactly what's causing this.
Good, because I was not having a lot of luck with looking up. Lots of people having Alt-Tab issues.
Yeah, I've had this exact problem myself. Let me see. Did it download the video properly, or do I have to download it again? I'll have to download it again because you fucked up.
Camille with a C.
Yeah, Camille with a C. Let me see. Where is that video? Let me try to. I don't want. I want to download. No. Where did you put it?
So while he's complaining about downloading, I've recently started up playing Dragon Age Inquisition again. Due to having multiple monitors, I like having one specific monitor to have the Dragon Age wiki open if I need to look something up. However, when I open the game or tab back to it or out of it, the window that has the wiki moves to the center screen. I tried with other games such as Baldur's Gate 3 to recreate it, but no luck. Now, obviously, I can have the wiki open on the above monitor. I just want to understand why it's happening.
Let me put this on. You got the video here so I can demonstrate. I'm pretty sure I know what's going on here. Let me put it over here. And no, wrong button. That's the button we need. All right, let's put this up on the screen here so y'all can see it. Yeah, there it is. Now, if you watch here, when she alt tabs, come on, hold on. Hold on. It's going to take a second. Yeah, she loaded the game, and then the screen that was here moved over to here. I know what's happening. You've got a resolution mismatch in full screen. The way it works is if you have a resolution in the game that's lower than the full-size resolution of the screen, say you're running the screen at the game's resolution is, you're playing it at 720, but the screen's resolution is 1080, and you're using multiple monitors, Windows goes, oh crap. Because as far as Windows is concerned, the desktop space just shrank. The overall desktop, when you change the resolution by opening the game, all of the resolution, Windows considers the multiple monitors one big desktop. And the resolution is the amount of space it has. If one of those changes suddenly, it has to reorganize everything that was on those monitors. That's what's happening here.
And it basically considers as though you've hooked up new monitors. You see this, I see this all the time in the office.
Yeah.
Now that you said what it is, I say, someone goes, I hook up this new monitor and now my monitors are out of order. I mean, what? And I have to decipher sometimes what they mean by monitors out of order. It means the one that was on the left now thinks it's on the right.
Yeah. So if you're running Dragon Age in full screen, that explains when it did start. It rearranged all my shortcuts. Yeah. If you're running it full screen, make sure that it's running at the same resolution of the monitor. So make sure it's running at the highest resolution. Okay. Yeah, if possible. Your other option is if you can't run it at the highest resolution, run it windowed, because if you run it as a window, then if you put it full screen, it's not going to full windowed borderless. It's not changing the resolution of your monitor. So then you could just, I do that quite often with my games too. But yeah, that's what's causing it. So there you go. That's simple. Actually, easy solution for that one. So
yeah.
Last one is from Barris. Just came in. He says, hi. Or they. I don't know if it's he, she, there. But regardless. I know this is not your deal usually, but if you have an answer, great. Thanks a lot. If not, sorry to waste your time. Thanks a lot. Memory for 9950X or 9950X 3D. 24 gigabytes, 2 by 48 gigabytes RAM, DDR 6400 or better, stable for work stuff, or 9950X or 9950X 3D. Do I have to win the Silicon Lottery for this, or is it just a matter of spending the money? you're trying to find a stable one for 2x48 gigs. Okay. Not quite a matter of the lottery. RAM and higher speeds DDR5 has been kind of tricky. What it comes down to quite often with getting RAM to run speeds greater than 6,000 on Ryzen has been a matter of not so much the capacity, but higher quality motherboard. Well, Chris, the motherboard does play into it, but another thing that plays into it is who made the chips on the RAM stick. And they often make this a little tricky to find. There are three major manufacturers for RAM chips. You've got Micron, which is generally considered to be not the best manufacturer. They make it and it kind of works. There's Samsung, which is a bit in the middle, oddly enough. Samsung is not considered the best RAM manufacturer, but they're okay. The best one, however, is typically considered to be Hynix, Hynix. And not just Hynix, but Hynix A die or M die. And in this case, I think if it's going to be for 48 gigs, I think that's M die. Yeah, SK Hynix. I think that's M die. If someone could correct me on that, because it's been a while since I've looked into this stuff. The reason why is those tend to behave better at higher frequencies, and they can take a bit more punishment, meaning you could crank up the speeds, tighten them up a little bit, run more voltage through it if you need for stability. So whatever you're looking to purchase, you're going to have to do a little bit of research online and make sure that whatever you get is a Hynix A. I believe it's Hynix A, because when we're talking about these 48 gig RAM sticks, it's a matter of how much RAM per chip, and I'm not sure how they add up, because I think it's M. It's A or M is what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Look up.
And I did happen to find, I'm just saying, I found on Newegg that I didn't track what speed he wanted. What speed did he want?
6400 or better.
Okay, so there's the 6800, 2x48 by G-Skill Trident Z5 RGB series, and it is Hynix, and they say some are A die, some are M die in the comments section.
Okay, all right, give me the link. I'll put that on screen. Another thing I recommend about this, Barris, is to check in on some overclocking guides for DDR5, because the base timings they give up for a lot of the stuff is really conservative, and you can push these a little harder. You can tighten up the timings. You may have to run. I wouldn't feel comfortable running more than 1.4 volts through it. They can handle 1.45 comfortably. Mine's running at 1.4. I got some Hynix M die, luckily, very early on when I built my system a few years back. It's only 64 gigs. They're rated. They came out of the box rated for 5,600 megahertz. And by following some guides, Buildzoid, hardly recommend Buildzoid. He knows very, very, very versed in how all this stuff works. He will walk you through this tremendously. I followed his guides on this, and I managed to get my 5,600 running at 6,000. I don't want to go past 6,000. 6,000 is kind of the sweet spot for Ryzen, or at least, yeah, when you're talking about gaming. Other applications, you might want to go faster, but for gaming, 6,000 is the sweet spot, and I figured if I get an extra 400 megahertz out of this RAM, pretty good. So I did. I've got it running CL32. I might try getting it to CL30 and see if I can get that stable at some point. I haven't messed around with it much, but I've got it running at CL32. I got a DDR 6000. I had to jack up some of the voltage to 135, 1.4, but it will handle that stable and run pretty well, and it was not going to hurt the RAM. So do you have the link, Mike? Did you put it in the chat?
I sent it to you
in Discord. Let me look. There it is. Okay, look at this. G.Skill is good stuff. Definitely good stuff. Let's look at what we have here. Where is you? Still hear the clicking sound.
No.
Yeah, I think I left that video on loop. Sorry about that.
Now this is CL34, which is the only option at 6800. If you go down to 6400, it goes to CL32. So,
well, here's the thing about the CL number that you have.
I say that as stock, mind you.
Yeah, think about the CL. The timings on this when it comes to CL, the CL timing, it's a ratio. So, for example, on DDR 6000, CL30, and let's say DDR 6400, CL32 have the exact same latency because the clock is higher on one. So on the 6800, CL34 is probably the same latency as CL30 on DDR 6000. So that's not bad.
Yeah.
Okay, I need the total 96 gigs. All right. I think that's you in the channel there. Barris, keep in mind, this is another tricky thing when it comes to Ryzen. If you're going to be running, this is a 2 by. Okay. Oh, it's a 2 by. Never mind. I thought you would do 4 sticks. Never mind. 2 by is fine. No problem.
This is a 2 by 48 kit. So
I brain fart on my end. For other people, what I was talking about, you don't on Ryzen, if you're concerned about trying to move up your RAM speed, 2 sticks only. Do not run 4 sticks on Ryzen if you're trying to get the highest possible RAM speed you can, because Ryzen's really sensitive about that. The more sticks you run, that's the more voltage, the more latency, a whole bunch of things come into play there, and your ability to move the speed up becomes inhibited. So 2 sticks should be the max you run on it. It's just a matter of how you can run 4 sticks if you're more concerned about capacity than speed. And depending on the quality of the sticks you get, you might even get it up to like DDR 6000 or something. But if you're trying to run faster than that, like if you're trying to get to like 6800, 4 sticks might not do it on Ryzen. It tends to be a little temperamental that way. But yeah, just to give you the exact, I'll put this in the chat so you can read it. The exact model number, because that's going to matter when you're trying to get the SK Hynix A die or M die. There's the exact model number that Mike found for you. 300, that for 96 gigs, 300 is a nice price, actually. That's a sweet price right now, all things considered. Yeah. So yeah, get that and try tweaking the settings to see if you can get something stable. You may have DDR5 has got a lot of resiliency and a lot of room for overclocking, so that's nice. Like I said, I'm running a set that was rated for 5600, and it runs at 6000 with no issues. So you might get lucky, you might not. But Hynix A and M die, SK Hynix, they make good stuff. It's resilient and it can handle a little bit of pushing it. So if you're, that's a lot of RAM. Yeah, well, I mean, I considered getting 128 at some point, but 64 has been more than sufficient for me, even doing video stuff. I'm not doing crazy high-end video stuff. Like, you know, the effects, I don't super need it. So, all right. I think that's everybody for this week. So many questions. I'm so happy to have them all. It makes me happy. I like getting questions from you folks. Yeah, that is going to do it. All right. We'll be back next week, 9 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. If you have tech questions for Mike and myself, you can send those to request@radio.air.com, and we will happily help you out with it, just like we've been doing all tonight. In the meanwhile, until then, we'll see you next time, everybody. Good night.